Good evening, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri. And as always, we are grateful to have Dr. Alok Pandey, our brother, with us. Namaste. Because this canto is a very difficult canto, the descent into night, canto that we need to go very deeply into, and I want to preface with some words of the mother. He walked in the darkness of inconscience, even in the neighborhood of death, endured the sufferings of perdition, and emerged from the mud, the world misery, to breathe the sovereign plenitude and enter the supreme Ananda. He crossed all these realms, went through the consequences, suffered and endured physically what one cannot imagine. Nobody till today has suffered like him. He accepted suffering to transform suffering into the joy of union with the Supreme. It is something unique and incomparable in the history of the world. It is something that has never happened before. He is the first to have traced the path in the unknown so that we may be able to walk with certitude towards the supermind. He has made the work easy for us. Savitri is his whole yoga of transformation. And this yoga appears now for the first time in the earth consciousness. And I think that man is not yet ready to receive it. It is too high and too vast for him. He cannot understand it, grasp it, for it is not by the mind that one can understand Savitri. One needs spiritual experiences in order to understand and assimilate it. The farther one advances on the path of yoga, the more does one assimilate, and the better. No, it is something which will be appreciated only in the future. It is the poetry of tomorrow, of which he has spoken in the future poetry. It is too subtle, too refined. It is not in the mind or through the mind. It is in meditation that Savitri is revealed.
These are powerful and too luminous words. Leave one speechless. Anyways, since we are on to these two cantos, Book 2, Canto 8, Canto 7 and Canto 8, The Descent into Night and The World of Falsehood. They go as a series where in the 7th canto we see Ashupati's descent into the dark pit of inconscience, the atmosphere, the steps, the even some beings, the law of that place as he enters into it. And in the world of falsehood, it's all about these beings, the energies, their influence upon humanity. And at the end of it all, we have the beauty of the future. So I have often been asked, just to give a little background, that there are people who don't like to read these cantos. I don't know why. But they feel that, oh, these are very powerful cantos, and as if you read about darkness, you will start feeling dark. Far from it. On the contrary, the simplest answer is, if Sri Aurobindo wrote it, he knows best, and he is full of compassion and grace, and he would not ever manifest anything which would be harmful for someone. So this is the simplest of all logics. Logic which is consistent with common sense. And the second reason is that, well, darkness is a side, there is a dark side of life, and we cannot deny it. And we need to know it because at some point or the other in the course of yoga or in the course of life itself, journey of life, one has to meet it and grapple with it. Thirdly, Sri Aurobindo says one cannot have a vision of the integral divine. This he says in the Gita. Until one has seen that side of life which is regarded generally as terrible and ugly. And he says why Arjuna was ready to have the vision of the integral divine. Otherwise, divine is all nice, beautiful, compassionate. But what about this side which exists? What hides behind this mask? Who puts this mask? What is this play? Fourthly, because this yoga is about transformation of the world, we need to really understand the real cause of the evil, not just surface causes which are about, systems and human beings who are nothing but puppets. The real forces are much deeper, much darker, and very often they wear deceptive masks. Some of the masks are so deceptive. For example, one of the masks which is so difficult to discover is the falsehood wearing the mask of truth. Imitates truth. It's very difficult to discover. Or another mask where Sri Aurobindo speaks about, the kind of deception it takes. It wears the mask of virtue. So, so it's not about moral, right or wrong or any such thing, but something much deeper. Something which is like a miasm in the underbelly of creation. And there can be no enduring transformation unless that is grappled with. That was one reason why Sri Aurobindo was not satisfied just with an overmind creation. He said that everything will be wonderful, godlike, miracles, new religion, world religion.
Mother will create a new religion. She'll be worshipped.
But still the possibility of darkness will be there. Right hiding below. And it's only the supermind that has the power to annihilate it, transform it, to convert it. And so he was not satisfied just with a glossing over of things. I mean, we love to paint things, whereas the actual wall, the foundation remains very weak. So this is the great importance of this canto. At the same time, we must understand that in the total scheme of things, this has its place.
Yes.
That's why it is there. It's part of creation. There is a purpose. There is a wisdom that works in it. That at the end of the Canto 8 we are revealed. Also, we should not exaggerate its place. If I may use a bit mathematically, out of 721 pages in Savitri, these are about 24, 25 odd pages, maybe 30 pages. So if you really make a straight calculation, makes about 4 to 5%. Yes. The fact is there is much goodness in the world, but it goes unnoticed. It's taken as part of the way of life. Also, the fact is much is human, not evil. We regard it as evil because we have a very jaundiced view of saying things. But the other part is that this little evil, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, is enough to topple the whole scheme of things. That is its problem. You need one madman armed with a nuclear power who can disturb the whole plan of things. Others may be working towards restraining it and everything, but you just need one man to disturb the whole scheme of things. And lastly, the power of this kind of, in ancient thought it's called as Asuric and Rakshasi Maya, is that it can make it appear as if it is all. There is a line in Savitri, a momentary evil's almightiness. It can be so overpowering that it may cloud our vision to an extent that it may make us feel, this world is nothing but evil. There is a part in it, part truth in evil. But we should not exaggerate it. So Sri Aurobindo puts everything in its right place, shows us in totality its roots, what is its future, what is its role, how we should confront it. All these things are here. And especially in a world transforming yoga, one has to grapple with it in grim earnest. So that's why the importance of this canto, Canto 7.
We have decided also that we are going to take our regular pace slowly. And when we return again,
we continue with it. Yes. The descent into night, a mind absolved from life, made calm to know, a heart divorced from the blindness and the pang, the seal of tears, the bond of ignorance, he turned to find that wide world failure's cause. So we just read about the kingdoms of the greater life. But even though it comes, it cannot establish itself. Such beautiful things have landed on this globe, high things, even divine things. But ultimately, it ends up in a kind of a collapse. 6 times pralayas. So this time, the work must be perfect. So he wants to know, Ashapati, of course, Aurobindo, wants to know the wide world failure's cause. That has to be grappled. What is the disease that we are suffering from? At the same time, we are cautioned, like often in those advertisements, we have people who do dangerous things that, there is a disclaimer. This is only for those who are experts in the field.
Not recommended.
Not recommended. So, because people would write letters to Sri Aurobindo, oh, since we have to grapple darkness, should I not raise it up in myself? Taking a cue from psychoanalysis, because psychoanalysis deals only with this part. Let me be very forthright about it. It knows nothing else about human life except this part. But it enters into this domain without the light. And that is why it is a dark and dangerous thing. Whereas in yoga, in any way, case in life, you will confront it. And in yoga, definitely one will confront it in grim earnest. But it's not to be raised up, and given a justification, because when people go through their problems, sometimes they say that, well, it's my shadow I am, grappling with. Well, it is a shadow, but, one has to also know that there should be no justification for it. One has to go through it, face it with calm equanimity, offering strength, vigilance, whatever one has at one's disposal. At the same time, understand its real nature.
I had asked Dr. Dalal how far psychotherapy and all of these psycho things had evolved. And he said, there's been some change, but I said, is there ever a mention of soul? He said, absolutely not.
They will be scandalized, outcast. They try to mention it through roundabout ways. And that was one reason why I stopped going to these psychology seminars. I said, you want me to tell a lie? You want me to not to use the word divine and say nice things, consciousness, this, that? I said, it doesn't work. I mean, the whole either there is the divine or he is not. So, and you can build a whole psychology on the fact of the divine presence. I mean, Indian psychology is about that. So, Ashupati enters into this realm. We must see in what state. A mind absolved from life, made calm to know. He is in a state of perfect equanimity. His heart is freed from the clutch of blindness and the pain of grief and error and ignorance. Then he is entering, armed with that light. Away he looked from nature's visible face and sent his gaze into the viewless vast, the formidable unknown infinity, asleep behind the endless coil of things that carries the universe in its timeless breaths, and the ripples of its being are our lives.
Now that's a marvelous line.
Marvelous line.
It starts with an anapest and the ripples.
Yeah.
And if we feel this, and the ripples of its being are our lives. It's
music. And
music.
this is a real experience. Mother speaks about it when she descended into the inconscient. She has this vision which came out in very early in the Cosmic Review, where she actually saw the being who is asleep there. And in his sleep he was creating this world. And he's asleep in the depths of the inconscient, of course. And then when she looked at him, he opened his eyes. So this is how she describes the vision. And quite naturally, it would mean the process of transformation starts right at the base. So that's where, in the ripples of its being, are our lives. The worlds are built by its unconscious breath, and matter and mind are its figures or its powers. Our waking thoughts, the output of its dreams. So the source is there, the manufacturing factory is there, the occult power that moves our mind, that moves this material life is there. And we are driven by its breath unconsciously without knowing what it is and how to.
And in book 7, Savitri goes through all of this.
Yes, yes, to conquer it. Yes. The veil was rent that covers nature's depths. He saw the fount of the world's lasting pain. Again, when we go to book 6, we will see Sri Aurobindo speaks of the womb of pain. And he says, in the subconscious shadow is its tenebrous womb. Now, where is this pain? How is there pain? Because we think pain is something, I feel pain in my body or in my mind. But how come pain is there? Now, it's very interesting. The first pain is when the separation took place between the original four beings and the plunge into darkness. It's the deepest root of pain. We cannot imagine that moment when these beings, of course, mistakenly out of or a deeper wisdom, that is something we need not go into, but they were feeling so great, so mighty, as if they are the creators, and then suddenly next moment they discover they are nothing but the very opposite of what they started with. Now that pain that they experienced at that point of time is like a pang, a yearning. Mother uses the word call went forth from them. Save us. It is this yearning which is embedded in the subconscious world and we inherit it. That's why Sri Aurobindo uses the word in book 1, Canto 1, inheritor of the agony of the globe. This is an agony rooted in the subconscious nature. And deep inside, actually, if we see behind every pain, including physical pain, it's basically the pang of separation from the divine truth. And so the remedy lies in uniting it. And that's what is meant by a transformed body. It is a body which will be completely moved by truth. Therefore, it will be free of ignorance, free of error, free of pain, free of death. So, you know how deep this goes. The fount of world's lasting pain and the mouth of the black pit of ignorance, the evil guarded at the roots of life, raised up its head and looked into its eyes, and looked into his eyes. It had never imagined that somebody will dare to come. Several places in God's labor we have on a desperate stair, my feet have trod. I saw that a falsehood was planted deep into the very root of things. So suddenly it opens its eyes and says, someone has come this far. On a dim bank where dies subjective space. See, there is an objective space and there is an inner world. Now it's a very interesting line Sri Aurobindo uses.
Yeah.
The term subjective space. Now, subjective space is the space where our thoughts, our aspirations, our hopes, our dreams, all these exist. So when we have nothing really to do outwardly, we are moving in our subjective space. But people who are in the grip of these forces, I have seen it as a practicing psychiatrist, they suddenly become blank. In fact, there is a term used called anhedonia, inability to feel any joy. They are blank. They cannot even say that we are depressed because that subjective space is finished. There is no experience there. It's all filled with utter darkness. Sri Aurobindo says, dies subjective space. From a stark ridge overlooking all that is, a tenebrous, awakened nescience, her wide, blank eyes wondering at time and form. Actually, the blank eyes. And what is interesting is that Ashupati can still be there because he is awakened fully in his inmost soul. That can never die. Hence, he is fully conscious when he is looking. But somebody in whom the soul is just a little spark, imagine what would happen in that space if one enters. Stared at the inventions of the living void and the abyss whence our beginnings rose. So, of course, when Aurobindo is speaking of beginnings, it means creation emerged from there in its evolutionary journey or its return journey. But it's not the origin of creation. The origin of creation is always in the light. We come from the light and to the light we go. But here, beginnings means it started taking an evolutionary upward journey with matter as a base. In that sense, creation begins there. Behind appeared a grey carved mask of night, watching the birth of all created things. A hidden puissant, conscious of its force. Now look, Aurobindo is using the word puissant, presence with a capital. This is the power. It's not something we should take very lightly. A hidden puissant, conscious of its force. A vague and lurking presence everywhere. A contrary doom that threatens all things made. A death figuring as the dark seed of life seemed to engender and to slay the world. It seemed to give birth to a world and then eat it back. It claims its right. I am the creator. Later on, death will say the same thing.
Oh, yes.
I am the creator. I am Maya, the power of Savitri in book 7. Also, later on, death will actually tell her, I am the creator. Everything is under my grip. And that's why in ancient Indian thought we had these worlds of mortality stretching right up to the overmind consciousness. Barring those, perhaps this Holy Trinity, all others worlds, including gods, eventually death can overtake it, It's there in the myths. It has such a great power. Even the gods, if the time has come, death can walk and ultimately absorb. But of course, death for them is not death the way we experience it. They just get dissolved back into their source. It's only the supramental worlds and beyond where it has no say. It doesn't exist. It will get transformed. So, seem to engender and to slay the world. Then from the somber mystery of the gulfs and from the hollow bosom of the mask, something crept forth that seemed a shapeless thought. We can't even use the word vibration. Vibration is still something sensible. It's like something that creeps and you don't know.
And twice he uses the word seemed.
Yes, yeah, because
in 4 lines, because it's not actually.
The real truth will come subsequently, why it is allowed and what is. But as if you get a feeling, oh, there is something, but what is it you can't know?
Yeah.
So that's how it creeps. A fatal influence upon creatures stole, whose lethal touch pursued the immortal spirit. On life was laid the haunting finger of death, and overcast with error, grief, and pain, the soul's native will for truth and joy and light. Quite naturally and quite rightfully, the soul in us believes, well, joy, light, truth, love, these are the very stuff of things. But it says, okay, come, I'll show you another side. Of course, it cannot eventually afflict the soul, but it can afflict the mind, it can afflict life, it can afflict matter, and very brutally. And that's where its game is. So what does it do? A deformation coiled that claimed to be the being's very turn, nature's true drive. So, what does falsehood do? Aurobindo at one place says, it twists the truth, just a little twist, that's what is called as devil quoting the scripture. It twists a little. As I said, one can easily, shadows, so all of us have shadows. Little twist. Yeah. And it changes into, truth changes into falsehood. It's enough to distorted. So it
Yeah,
deformation.
and he uses the word coiled.
Coiled. In fact, mother at one place speaks about it in one of her experiences. She's seeing somebody and then she says, it's very interesting what falsehood does to human beings. Says when people start speaking lies, I see their whole face becomes twisted. She's used the word twisted. And one of the types of us, or rather these dark beings in the Vedas, is called a twister. And of course, the storm also twister. It just twists. He said, I can see the very face gets distorted and twisted. And the other is where there is that simplicity, that joy, that natural light. So, how does it twist? It says, well, this is what nature is, a hostile and perverting mind at work. In every corner, ensconced of conscious life, corrupted truth with her own formulas. So it used truth. Well, all the religions. I mean, now we talk about jihad. It's very obvious. Jihad is about inner war. If you look at it, I mean, it's so plain common sense. Doesn't need to be a philosopher or dwell deep into the scripture. It's very simple that you have to fight the battle inside yourself. And if you die fighting that battle, of course, you get the 70 virgins. Basically, what is virgin? It's the pure energies of the Lord, uncorrupted, undefiled by the touch of earth nature. It's an ascension into something which is true and beautiful and light. So obvious. But tell this to somebody under the grip of, oh, okay, these are all interpretations. No, it doesn't mean that. So you can't. It is completely twisted now. So it uses truth and then deforms it. Corrupted truth with their own formulas. Interceptor of the listening of the soul. Afflicting knowledge with the hue of doubt. So how it, listening of the soul. The soul makes a straight response. Oh, mother, she is the divine mother. Is the end of the story. Soul's response. But when mind, oh, I sure, no, but mother left her body. How can, if she was divine, why is she saying, I've heard people say such thing. Why is she saying, I don't know my child? She's supposed to know everything. Why she couldn't cure my common cold? Human mind can have silliest of doubts. And there is a reason for all this. There is a, when you look into, grow into the light, it's so obvious. There are people, I mean, Amitabh Bachchan's, he's a wonderful person, no doubt a legend. His father, great poet, he had come to Pondicherry and he had a cold. And strangely, his friend asked him, why don't you come and meet the mother? So that day it was going around that mother had a cold, so she's not going to step out. So he said, if she is God, why should she have a cold? And so he didn't go and have the darshan. Now to me it was very obvious that had he been awakened, he would have said, she has got a cold, I have a cold, our cold she has taken upon herself. Now it would have been so simple. So all the more you should have felt like going to somebody who is so full of compassion.
And mother said it many times.
Yeah,
that she had taken these things on.
But see the vision, it can work the other way around.
Yeah.
You of doubt. It captured the oracles of the occult gods, effaced the signposts of life's pilgrimage. So, it creates confusion, doubts. And even when one is growing, even after one had beautiful experiences, Aurobindo to remind some of the disciples, how can you forget those beautiful things you experienced? Because when they are afflicted by doubt, they say, oh, nothing is true, all these are. And then you have to remind, there are so many letters. Efface the signposts of life's pilgrimage. Cancel the firm rock edicts graved by time. What is the firm rock edicts graved by time? Aurobindo, I mean, there are many ways of putting it, but what I remember is one of the letter of Aurobindo where he says that one who seeks the divine will find the divine is more true than 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now this is rock edict. If you seek the divine, you will find the divine. It is engraved in time. You look at the entire history of spiritual evolution. But it effaces. He says, no, 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 you are unworthy, you are no good, not for you, this only for some special people.
The call once.
Yeah, so many places. So, rock addicts. And on the foundations of the cosmic law, erected its bronze pylons of misrule. Sinner, sin, punishment. Typically, cosmic law, yes, there are certain consequences of certain deeds, but they have nothing to do with sin and punishment. They are learning and growth. But what does it build on that? Religions, we will see it toward the end. Bronze pylons of its own misrule. It says, yes, look, you are a sinner and you are punished. Therefore, everybody has a right to stone you and punish you. It's a totally misreading of a cosmic law. In cosmos, it happens. Well, if you do certain things, even certain extreme things, there is a recoil in nature. It's not to punish you. It's not, nature doesn't say you are a sinner. It's a learning process. Children start walking, they fall. They fall 10 times, 11th time they learn how to walk. So here we have this example. On the foundations of the cosmic law, the law of karma, for example, erected its bronze pylons of misrule. Therefore, they have a right to punish because there is sin. Even light and love, by that cloaked danger's spell, turned from the brilliant nature of the gods to fallen angels and misleading sons. Look at this. Light, which dispels darkness, can come under its spell. So we have all these, Babajis. Should be so careful. What happens, as we shall see, they pick up some light which is, and instead of the deeper sense, they pick up the surface things and then they turn it into something dark. Love. Love which claims the loved one as its very own and seeks to possess. It's a total deformation of the deeper truth. Aurobindo speaks of that. In fact, at one place he says, what are the virtues? He says, courage and love are the only indispensable virtues.
Yes.
Even if all the rest fail, today we were reading it, they alone can save. And then Mother defines what is courage. Not to be afraid under any circumstance, not to have any fear. Love. She says love is not what people call love. Love is a total self-giving. There is no want. There is no deformation. I want to possess. This is mine. There is no such movement in love. So even those high things become fallen angels and misleading sons.
I read last night and Tuesday night at the Om Choir these words from Mother on love. And she says, at the very end, she says, it is true that consciousness created the worlds, but love
is its savior.
Savior.
Yes, love is its savior. Became themselves a danger and a charm. So fallen angel of love, love when it falls becomes dark, something which can destroy, and we know it, love, how it can destroy. I mean, just some time back, I had a call from somebody whom I know. He calls and says, I am having very violent impulses inside. I want to kill X. So I said, why you want to kill? So his somebody whom he loved very deeply and got married to, then separated. And now this lady loves somebody else. It's okay. So he now wants to kill them. Now you see the same love. 20 years back would have experienced love. And now it has turned into the dark, poisonous wine of hate. What a dark hate. So I told him, if you have to kill this hate inside you. Then you will experience love. Of course, I'm still a bit worried, so I had to pray to Mother. And what else can you do? You can't be all the time present with everybody and tie their hands. It's the journey. But look how it becomes a danger and a charm. It hooks by the charm and leads to danger. A perverse sweetness, heaven-born, malefice. Heaven-born because these are powers, qualities which are found in the higher realms, light and love. Sweetness, they are divine qualities. but they become deceptive masks. So they become a danger and a charm. Heaven born malefice, born but fallen. That becomes worse. Somebody was telling me the other day, oh, I'm very scared of snakes. I said, why? Oh, creepy creatures. I said, see, there is nothing more greater horror than human beings who may hide the snake like poison and words behind a mask of sweetness. At least the snake is what it is. It will hiss, raise its hood, give you enough warning. And unless you step on its tail, it will not harm you. Actually, okay, they are slimy, slithery creatures. No one fond of them. But at the same time, but human beings, mask of sweetness. And behind it, the deception. So we have these lines. Its power could deform divinest things. A wind of sorrow breathed upon the world. All thought with falsehood was besieged. All act stamped with defect or with frustration's sign. The moment one went through will, action, thought, the moment it went through that influence, it was stamped. You will fail. Defective. That was its effect. All high attempt with failure or vain success. So their success was even worse. It meant forever you are tied to that littleness because it has so many masks. But none could know the reason of his fall. The grey mask whispered, and though no sound was heard. See, this vain success, all high attempt, it reminds me of famous story of became a yogi. A lot of people were also initiated by him. I won't name the person, a well-known figure. And Nalini had called him Ashuddha Sadhu, impure Sadhu. And he and his another yogi disciple. So when their master, who was a great master, asked them what you want. So one of them said, I want to just merge in the divine, nothing else. And the other said, I do have desire for worldly name and fame. And so he got the name and fame, but you see that part remained always unchanged, untouched by the purity. Whereas the right thing should be to breathe the divine and enter into the divine. Now other things may come or may not come, it's irrelevant. But to seek these things. So we have these lines with, vain success. It was a big success. I mean,
Very much so.
I don't know, you have guessed
Very
perhaps.
much so. Many disciples
Yes.
all over the world.
And when he died, strangely, many of them felt a release inside. I have met some of the disciples who came and told me. Suddenly they feel liberated because the influence was all said and done dark. The touch was there. But that time they felt high experiences and this and that. The grey mask whispered, and though no sound was heard, yet in the ignorant heart a seed was sown that bore black fruit of suffering, death and bale. Actually, Mother has said about ambition. The seed in the canker in the fruit. It is sown at the seed itself, like somebody wanting to do yoga with an ambition. I will become a great yogi. I will earn respect. I will become a holy man. Now this seed is sown at fatal start. So you may achieve success, but actually as a yogi you are a failure. Aurobindo spoke of that, even regarding some of these people. Out of the chill steppes of a bleak unseen, invisible, wearing the night's grey mask, arrived the shadowy, dreadful messengers, invaders from a dangerous world of power, ambassadors of evil's absolute. So these are the two main forces, ambition and lust. Aurobindo says to be very careful about. And then of course, Mother has used the term abyss for pride, which comes by ambition, greed for money, and lust for sex. These are the three things which are the dangerous abysses. In silence, the inaudible voices spoke. Hands that none saw planted the fatal grain. No form was seen, yet a dire work was done. An iron decree in crooked uncials written imposed law of sin and adverse fate. These forces have always, attacked, tried to destroy yagnas, even here in Pondicherry. How they have attacked and tried to destroy several times the ashram.
Yes.
Sometimes very obviously, sometimes subtly, in crooked ways, devious ways, gross ways.
And then we could end with some of these beautiful lines.
Yes. Life looked at him with changed and somber eyes. Her beauty he saw and the yearning heart in things, that with a little happiness is content. Answering to a small ray of truth or love, he saw her gold sunlight and her far blue sky, her green of leaves and hue and scent of flowers, and the charm of children and the love of friends and the beauty of women and kindly hearts of men. So we shouldn't forget that there is, Sri Aurobindo brings the thing in perspective.
Yes.
So that, because he's used the word evil is absolute. So we shouldn't become cynics or start believing, oh, this alone is true. So Ashapati, even for a moment, doesn't forget, yes, there is goodness in the world. And he describes this goodness in the simplest of things. Look at these lines.
Beautiful.
With a small little happiness is content, yearning heart, content with little happiness, answering to truth and love, green of leaves, gold sunlight, hue and scent of flowers, far blue skies, charm of children, love of friends, beauty of women, and kindly hearts of men. Look at how beautiful. There is so much beauty in this world, so much love, so much, even at a human level, to hope. But saw too the dreadful powers that drive her moods. So, in itself, these are beautiful things. But behind it all, the powers that drive and influence. And the anguish she has strewn upon her ways, fate waiting on the unseen steps of men, and her evil and sorrow, and last gift of death. So we can stop here.
I'll close with these. To thee, who has been the material envelope of our Master, to thee our infinite gratitude. Before thee, who has done so much for us, who has worked, struggled, suffered, hoped, endured so much. Before thee, who hast willed all, attempted all, prepared, achieved all for us. Before thee, we bow down and implore that we may never forget, even for a moment, all we owe to thee. 9 December 1950.